Welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, I'm going to be covering the weekly dev update, my thoughts on the Tall Tales, and if Hunter's Call reputation is too hard to grind. All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. First up on this week's episode, I did want to talk about the weekly dev update. So Rare is putting out their weekly dev updates as always, and Joe talks about this week being the culmination of the weekly jam. And if you've had a chance to go onto Twitter, then there's a good chance that you've probably seen some of the cool stuff they've done. They've had people going around singing shanties. They've erected a mast in front of the studios with Captain Bones there. It's been really great. They've done some bake sales and a lot of art classes as well too in the studio. I love that they're getting this opportunity to kind of take a break from kind of working strictly on the game itself and being able to kind of, have some different thoughts about what's going on and just enjoy themselves for once. They've been working really hard this last year to make sure that we've had a good content roadmap for the first year of launch, and having it end with the anniversary update and then getting a chance to take a break afterwards has been great to see. That being said, I'm looking forward to what's coming in the future. Some of the stuff that we know that they're going to be working on is the continued efforts with pets, making sure that pets are coming and that they are satisfactory to what people are looking for in a microtransaction that involve pets, as well as the crossplay with Xbox and PC options for Xbox players who want to opt out of crossplay, as well as some fixes that should be coming in the next patch, which should be this week. So starting off this week, they did say that they pushed out an update to the Insider build. Now, I am still an Insider technically. I have not really spent a whole lot of time in Insiders. I've mostly been working on the retail copy so that I can try and get Tall Tales and fishing and all that good stuff worked on, and haven't really done much in as far as testing goes. And that's kind of how I feel about Insiders from now on. I'm glad that it's available, but until we get some solid content to kind of test out and put some work into, I don't see myself jumping in too often, except to work on the hour a week so that I can make sure that I am working towards those end kind of rewards for the Insider cosmetics, as well as the gold. That's just going to be a good boost. So when I do jump in, I tend to go find ways to get stuck in places or access things that I probably shouldn't. And in fact, I actually managed to get into a cool place tonight that I had access to in the retail version. But with all of that being said, I did want to touch on the weekly dev update. So in the patch that got pushed out to Insiders, Joe talks about how they've been working on bugs that will help make sure that people are able to finish Tall Tales when they complete it. Some of the bugs that they've had recently are that you don't always get the completion for a Tall Tale once you actually complete it. So they're working to make sure that they fixed how that actually works. And they've also worked on making sure that harpoons are working properly. There's one instance that Joe brought up where if you do get sucked up by a kraken, if you have the angle and your teammates are good enough that they can use the harpoon to actually pull you out of the kraken's grip and back onto the actual onto the back the ship. And I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of fun with the harpoon. I think it's probably one of the more interesting tools that we've had. And I've mentioned in the past that I think it's kind of cool that it's a new anchor, but I do really have to say that being able to work on, for example, Jay Pizzle and I were doing a fort the other night. And we completed the fort, and it was a fort that was more vertical than horizontal. It was a very lot of tiers to the different levels and stuff. And if not for the harpoon, we would have had to take each piece of loot, grab it, hop down into the water, climb onto the ship, drop it off, and then swim back to the island, climb all the way back up to the top of the vault, and then repeat the process. But because of the harpoon, we actually managed to find a good angle on one of the ledges and start dropping the loot on that ledge. So one person just kind of worked on harpooning the treasure from the ledge, and the other person worked on moving loot from the vault to the actual ledge. And I was thinking that would be a really effective way if, say, you're on a galleon and you're working on forts, to have 2 people on the ship and 2 people in the vault. 2 people to move stuff from the vault to a good place where the harpoon can reach it. And then one person who's fairly accurate being able to harpoon stuff off of the ledge, and then another person on the ship to take the treasure and then move it to a better location than right next to the harpoon. With something like that in mind, I can definitely see us using the harpoons in multiple ways to try and use them for different instances where they could start to work in that mechanic with the rest of the world. You know, something that is high up in a place that you can't reach, but the harpoon can actually reach it. One of the other things that Joe mentioned that should hopefully be coming in this next patch, that as far as we understand should go out this week, depending on how well things went in the insider build, dealt with the reward that comes for completing all of the commendations for Tall Tales. Now, I'm not just talking about running through each one once, or even completing the different journals and stuff for a couple of them. I'm talking about the thing that comes after completing every single Tall Tale 5 times, collecting all of the different journals, including the 10 that are on the last Tall Tale, and then collecting your reward after that, which is a curse. So I'm going to start saying that from now on, I'm going to kind of sound the spoiler warning. A lot of this is going to be stuff that you've probably heard about, but if you haven't, or if you haven't been looking at some of that stuff, then actually, oh man, see, I'm still... I'll save it for later. I'll tell you what, I'll save it towards the end. I won't talk about anything more than what's already been talked about in the dev update, so that I can talk a little bit more about what's coming in the future, and you don't have to worry about skipping forward. So I'll hold off on spoilers for now. We'll talk about spoilers towards the end of the episode. Again, this is going to be a shorter episode, so it won't be too much longer to find out what I'm planning on talking about. But there's this curse that is in the game that is a reward for the Tall Tales after you complete everything, is not displaying quite the way it was intended when it first came into the game. In fact, for some people, it's barely represented at all. And this is something that they've realized is a problem. They're going to be putting out a fix for it. And one of the things that I found while talking with Mike Chapman through some tweets that I believe Gullible Gambit started, which if you don't know who Gullible Gambit or Jay Pizzle, some of the people that I've mentioned prior in the episode, they are part of the Twitch streaming community for Sea of Thieves. Some of the diehard fans like us that love this game, that live and breathe this game constantly. So if you get a chance, I would love for you to go show them support if you don't already. If you do, thank you, because they're great parts of the community and I love them just like I love all of you. So to get back to what I was saying, Mike had kind of mentioned that they are planning on making it so that it is a uniform exposure when you have that curse equipped. And part that I jumped into was wondering if we couldn't maybe just have a few different variants to the actual curse, so that it wasn't necessarily the same for everyone. For some people it might be in some areas, and some people it might be in different areas, and to give us the option, kind of like some of the tattoo combinations that we have now. If you go into the tattoo combinations through the vanity chest, you'll see that you have a set of somewhere around 10 that are kind of a mishmash of different tattoos, some new, some unique, some that don't really fit in with the original 10, and then the reward ones that come from other things as well too. But having the option to have this curse represented on your character in different ways would help kind of make things a little more uniform, or a little less uniform, I should say. Each pirate should feel very unique, and usually when someone gets something new, they're excited about it and they want to show it off for a while, and that tends to result in seeing a lot of pirates kind of looking the same. I see this a lot in screenshots with a lot of pirates, myself included, who for a long time, I have a very specific reason why I look the way I look. But, a lot of guys seem to like to run around wearing black pants and black shoes and black gloves and no shirt, and kind of having their normal pirate legs or pirate, hooks and stuff like that. And you tend to see that a lot. You tend to see a lot of pirates running around in their ghostly garbs and stuff, and it's nice, but it's refreshing to run across a couple pirates who are uniquely dressed and have an idea of what they want to look like and stuff. And for myself, I've always wanted to represent the Keelhauled logo on the back of my tattoo, so that I could, or on my back with a tattoo. But now that I'm not using that logo anymore, I feel a little opened and a little free to be able to express myself by wearing different types of clothing, to the point where this weekend I actually had a good time creating a Legend of Zelda outfit and ship livery combination to kind of commemorate Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. I was talking with RJ, and who's Danzo on Twitter. And we were just kind of chatting about how much we love listening to the Wind Waker soundtrack. I've been listening to it recently at work, and he listens to it when he sails. And for me, that was a big push for me to love pirate games and to love sailing and stuff. And to have the opportunity to kind of create a cosplay in Sea of Thieves was a lot of fun. I had a good time working on it, and it was really exciting. And I'm looking forward to more pirates kind of growing into more unique design choices, more unique combinations of costumes. And when you get something that is so unique as, say, like the curse that we're talking about, having everyone looking the same with the same coloring or the same positioning of the curses tends to kind of take away from how special it is that you have it. Now, I understand that a lot of people aren't going to have this for a while, and some people may not spend any time working on it ever until they find out what it is and they realize how much work is involved. So those that do have it, kudos, because it's a long grind, and it's a grind that I'm taking slowly, which is going to lead me into another topic that I want to talk about a little bit later on. Next up on today's docket, let's talk a little bit about what is going to be coming in the kind of soon or closer future, the near future, however you want to put it. Joe in the weekly update really does kind of address some of the big issues that are dealing with the competitive side of Arena. Now, this isn't really going to affect how things are in, say, the lobby when you're dealing with other people. And I think that there's a lot of growth that can come from some of the changes and suggestions that myself and others are making about the lobby itself. But Joe does go into addressing that in a future build, not something that's coming right away, but something that they are working on depending on how things go from their testing, and then of course the insider testing, that they want to improve the matchmaking times for arenas. And I so far haven't had too much time between matches, but I understand that this is supposed to be something that is fairly quick to be able to go from one game to another game and get in and to be able to play without spending a whole lot of time in the actual Sea Dog Tavern, which I'm kind of of two minds about. Part of me likes it because I get to go check out clothing that I might have just unlocked, but other parts of me are kind of hopping around waiting for the next match to fill up positions so that we can actually get back into another match. They said that that's something that they're aware of and that they're working on making that happen. And they're also working on trying to find ways to keep people invested in the match when they actually get in. And this is definitely a problem that I'm noticing when I go into arena matches. A lot of the times you start out with 5 ships, but not all of those 5 ships actually are there by the end of the session. In fact, a majority of the time, 2 ships typically drop out, and you're usually left to 3 ships, which really cuts down on the competitive edge because there's fewer people fighting over chests, there's fewer people fighting in general, and there's less opportunity for ships to get sunk. So you tend to run into the situation where 1 or 2 ships who are competent, typically on voice comms and working as a crew, will go out, get a few chests, turn those in, start attacking other ships, and then move back to getting chests to get a better lead, and then coast the last few minutes out of the actual match. Now, full disclosure, I did something to this extent when I was playing this weekend. I got a chance to sail with the Keelhauled crew and had a blast. We did 4 matches. We came out on top every single match. Very proud of the folks that I sailed with, and especially considering the hour that we were playing and the experience level of the people that I was playing with. And some of them are very fresh to Sea Thieves, and others are veterans like myself, and it was a lot of fun to see the kind of adrenaline rush that we were getting. You know, I was getting to the point where I was trying to shot call as best as I could to make sure that we were all on the same pages of what we had to do. People weren't unsure of where they should be going, or trying to work towards a different goal, or trying to do something that was going to hinder us in the long run. And we came out on top to like vast difference in actual points ranges. But it happened that way because a lot of the times we had ships that would drop out of the match, and we were left either down to 2 or 3 ships for the match, which isn't really competitive because it's typically 1 to 2 ships that are really going for it, really trying to win, and then a third ship that's just happy to come in third place and get some points. And if I had my druthers, if I had my choice, I would definitely recommend that Rare take out open crew for the arena. I think arena should be something that is matched from people who are willing to get crews and trust us to be able to find people to get into crews with. All the people that I have sailed with are all people that I have either met personally or have come as a result of the podcast or streaming and have joined up in the Discord and have since become part of the family, the Keelhauled family. And this guild that I've helped kind of found has been great for having multiple types of multiple people across different time zones and stuff. And to have open crews try and compete against the kind of unsaid communication that can come from crews that have been sailing together for a while is really, really unfair. And there's no matchmaking point system right now in place to really kind of make sure that crews that are really good and are winning constantly are paired up with other high skilled crews. It's all free for all at this point. And I'm hoping that we either can take out open crew for arena and make it so that only fixed crews go into it, and give us the ability to pair lobbies too. Like, make sure, like, they're talking about trying to find ways to prevent stream sniping for streamers in arena. How about we just have lobbies that we can open and then bring crews in from different fleets? There's plenty of fleets out there, and they all tend to like to compete, especially when it comes to like rowboat races or Skullball. And there's so many of them that would love to compete against each other and set up these events, but we don't have full control over that. We always have to rely on having someone jump in, see if the people that they're trying to partner with are there, and then trying to fight against open crews and other crews that aren't in the mix to be able to get a lobby together so that you can have these kind of competitions. These, you could actually start doing tournaments. You could actually start building esports into it. And of course it's going to be hard because we have things that they're working on, which is another part that they're trying to fix, which is the hit registration for guns. One of the things Joe talked about in this is they are trying to work on tweaking the hit registration for guns so that it's far more accurate. When you actually hit someone, you see the gun flare and you know that you hit them, but in actuality the server didn't register the hit and that person never took the damage. So they're working on things like that, and that's a good step in the right direction for combat. And hopefully if they're able to kind of fix these kind of issues, then they can start looking at more broader issues, which deals with the kind of longevity of Sea of Thieves in the arena, as far as giving us more tools to work on building out lobbies for pirate groups that want to compete against each other. Some people just want to have 3 fleets from the community to fight against each other, even 5 fleets competing against each other to see who comes out on top in a best of 5 or a tournament bracket system. Those are the kind of tools we need right now. We need these kind of tools. A lot of people want brigs and sloops, myself included. I would love to see a fleet of sloops battling it out to try and see like who can sink each other and who can win in a 5v5 against 4 other sloops. But giving us better tools to create our own forms of engagement with the community would go a lot further. This is a problem that Hearthstone has had. This is a problem that Heroes of the Storm has had. I've seen a lot of games that I love that have a competitive side really lose a lot of support from the community because they didn't get the tools that they wanted to kind of build the longevity beyond what the company was actually doing with the game. Rare can do a lot with the arena, but unless we have a way to create our own types of fun by having private servers or private lobbies where we can kind of do our own thing, it's going to be hard for this to keep going and know that we're going to be competing against other skilled crews. Otherwise, we're just going to keep running into this problem where people who are in open crew come up against these well organized and highly communicative teams and end up really hating the experience because they just didn't have a chance. They didn't have a chance to get even 3rd place. And even if you offer rewards for 5th place, then you're going to start running into situations like I did when I was playing with I was watching Captain Falcor stream one day, and I saw he ended up on a galleon that had 1 person, and that 1 person was using a bot macro to move around so that it appeared that they were kind of doing something, but they were just there to get whatever kind of scraps of reputation they could without actually being there to play the game. Like, they didn't even respond. It was literally just the bot running forward, running backward, and jumping. And that's a big problem when you come to competitive stuff. When people don't want to play the game and they just want to game the system, then you're going to run into this a lot. And Rare needs to find ways to kind of give the people that want to have that positive experience the tools they need to create things so that we can have weekend tournaments for crews to go up against each other to test their mettle and see how well they do against other crews who are of the same mindset. I've talked a lot about Arena. Sorry. If that went long and you're not interested, I do apologize. There's a lot of problems going with Arena as far as what is being introduced as a result of the community. I know in a closed environment, Arena is really awesome, but there's a lot that needs to be worked on. And I fully admit and understand that Rare said a long time ago that the release of Arena was going to be a very bare bones system and that it was going to take some time to see how it gets fleshed out. And I appreciate their commitment to doing that with this mode because it is kind of a secondary mode to the main game where a lot of people have spent a lot more time and aren't able to bring their cosmetics over from, say, Adventure as well. So I would love to see where Arena is in a year, but I would much rather see how things are doing in 3 months. I would love to see some changes come to Arena sooner so that the enjoyment factor is still present for the people that want to be able to play this and have fun with it and enjoy it and love that great experience that Arena has when you are actually in a good game with teams that are fighting all the time, and it's hectic and it's crazy and you pull out wins by the skin of your teeth. Couple more things. I'm gonna push this. There was a suggestion made on one of the streams that I was watching, and I 100% agree with it, and I think it needs to be changed. If you damage your own ship with cannons, you should not get points, and the points that you gain from cannonball hits should be swapped with the points earned from killing someone. Right now, if you hit someone with a cannon, it's 25 points. If you kill someone, it's 5 points. And it's a lot harder to kill people on a ship when that ship is far away than it is lobbing shots randomly and able to rack up 100 points, which is the equivalent of digging up one chest by just randomly shooting out a bunch of cannonballs. And bear in mind, if you just lost your ship and you start up with a fresh ship and you lost 1,000 points, you just need 10 rounds of 10 hits to be able to get that back. That's not hard if you pull up to an outpost and all 4 of you grab cannons and start laying into your own top deck, because even top deck hits matter. Things like that needs to be addressed. The point value system needs to be taken a look at and shown that it's not fair for you to get 25 points for something that really didn't necessarily need a whole lot of effort to get. Like, you could literally earn 25 points by shooting your own ship. I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. It's not, if you're away from the fight, it's not going to help sink your ship for other players. You're just going to be hitting a shot and then repairing it and then hitting a shot and then repairing it and racking up points without actually engaging in the game portion of it with other people. I think I can let Arena go for now. I think I'm going to hold off on that. Other than the stuff that I've talked about, there's obviously a few more things that could be addressed. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm gonna wait and see how things go over the next couple weeks and see if we can get a couple tweaks to the system so that it's a little more fair, or at least hear from the devs and see like what they have planned. Let's take a break. All right. Next up on today's docket, let's talk about what the last bit of the weekly dev update addressed. And that has a lot more to do with the actual adventures part of the game, the adventure mode part of that. And right now, it seems as though they understand that they need to do some tweaking to the actual tall tales. And it doesn't feel like a lot of that involves how hard the tall tales are. Part of it does, but part of it seems like a lot of people have been jumping into Sea of Thieves, checking out the new content, and they don't know where to begin. Now, it's hard for me to push back on this, because I understand where they're coming from as far as wanting to make it a little more apparent about what you should do once you jump into the game and you want to start a tall tale. It's not as obscure to me when I'm following the game. I've been following the game. I've been keeping up with patch notes. I read patch notes. I talk to other players. I read the loading screen information. The loading screen information, of all things, it tells you a lot about what you should be doing once you get into the game. And a lot of people don't pay too much attention because, to be perfectly frank, it's a loading screen. And I don't know many people that really go to loading screens for high value information about what to do in the game. So that being said, I see where Rare is coming from, that they need to address how to make sure that people have a clear understanding when you log in how to get tall tales going. And that also extends into Tall Tales, specifically the Shroud Breaker. They're noticing a lot of people unclear of what you should do for the first part of the actual Shroud Breaker. Now, hopefully all of you have actually done it. And I can imagine, I can see how it would be tough to know, especially if you haven't really played the game, because a lot of the Tall Tales really require you to pay attention to how ships or how islands look, like the silhouette. And if it's one thing I've learned from the Tall Tales, is that regardless of the medium that the Tall Tale is written in, whether it's a very well designed script, or it's kind of a dark, shady memory, or if it's written in crayon, all of the images tend to be pretty accurate when it comes to the shapes of islands, especially what they have on the islands as well too. And if I can recommend for anyone that is having trouble with the Tall Tales, the first thing I would do is start off with step one. Whatever step one is, regardless of the Tall Tale, it doesn't matter what Tall Tale you're on. If there's a part that you're unclear about, stick on the first part, because the first part, and I mean this with all sincerity, the first part is really going to be just that, the part that actually gets you to the place you need to be to find out where you're going to go next. I can't tell you how many times when I first started some of the Tall Tales, and part of this was me just looking deeply into it, but another part of it was just like I was trying to jump the gun with a lot of the directions, like especially with the Shroud Breaker. When you get to a point in the Shroud Breaker, you are given a set of like a bunch of different parts of information, and it kind of leads you on a bit of a breadcrumb trail, which is cool. It's really fun to kind of map your way across the world and see like just where this ship went along that path. And because those paths vary depending on the circumstances of when you actually start the Tall Tale and the server you're on and who else has been doing them, some of those are procedurally generated, so they're not going to be the same all the time. But if you go to that first place and start there, and then look at your map and see, okay, they went this direction until they passed this island. And then you look on the map and you say, all right, well, I'm here and they went that direction. This island's kind of there. So that's got to be what they're talking about. And working at it from that perspective, especially with some of the later Tall Tales, it can really help out, because there's some that you have to kind of work your way backwards from. You're given a good amount of information at the end of where they were, and if you don't go backwards through that trail, you're going to have a hard time knowing where it actually began, which is tough when not all of the islands have names. And we've kind of been put into the situation with the Tales, or prior to the Tall Tales, that when you were doing, say, like Order of Souls, or if you're doing Gold Hoarders, they would either tell you exactly where the island that you have to go looks like, or you know, they tell you what the island is, and you just go find that island and sail to it. Or you just look at the map and say like, okay, well, this kind of looks like a penguin with an umbrella kind of sliding across the ground. So I'm gonna look for that on the map, and then once I find it, we'll go sail over there and dig up the chests. And because we're not getting names with islands, you really have to pay attention to what the silhouette looks like, especially on the horizon. Look around you and kind of take note of, all right, well, Crooked Masts looks like Three Peaks, which I believe was the original name for it. Shipwreck Bay has a lot of pointy parts, but two parts kind of point towards each other. Old Faithful Isle is just a big blob. Smuggler's Bay has the two peaks that lead into a bay and a big round circle there. Mermaid's Hideaway has a bunch of tall peaks that are separated that you can kind of jump onto if you're clever enough, or you can use a cannon to shoot yourself onto. And having that kind of information in the back of your head will help you tremendously with the Tall Tales. And I can't stress enough that you really should kind of go step by step by step, especially when you start running into quests that are more obscure, that deal with, say, like constellations. When you're when you're playing through a tall tale, and it tells you that you have to you have to align yourself based on where the constellation is in the sky. It doesn't just tell you north, south, east, west. You have to look up, you have to find it, you have to figure out what direction it is, and then that in relation to what direction it is on the compass, and then sail that way to that island. So if you're having trouble with it, the one thing I can recommend is finding outside sources of information, whether it be other people, whether it be Discords. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there with guides. There's plenty of websites that are documenting the stuff. And like, for example, I'm documenting all of the tall tales right now. I've been sailing around, going to the different tall tales and transcribing every single one of the journals that I find, so that lore is preserved and I can always refer back to it. And there's been a lot of lore that has explained a big part of one of the characters in the world's story, that if you haven't been playing the tall tales and really paying attention to what's going on with them, then it feels like you're really missing out on the struggle of what this pirate's life was like what they were going through during this time that we're now reliving in the future and tracing to find our way to the shores of gold. I forget where I was going with that, but to kind of round it all up, there's plenty of ways that you can get information on how to do the tall tales, and Rare is now looking to find ways to make it even easier for you to either work out the puzzles or to get things going or to make sure that it's accessible for more people. They want to make sure that more people are able to play the game and enjoy it just like we've been enjoying it while going through and doing the hard work of showing Rare, some of these are really tough. And the satisfactory that can be gained from completing those feels great. It feels like an escape room when you actually complete an escape room, and you feel great that you got it in under the time and you were smart enough to work out the puzzles, or at least have people with you that could work out the puzzles with you, or they could help you kind of understand what their thought process is. Anyway, let's move on. And the next part that I wanted to touch on deals with the skeleton lords. The skeleton lords, there's 3 of them that we have in the tall tales, and Rare is acutely aware that the balance is not there for the skeleton lords, and that's something that they've said that they're going to actually be addressing, which is it's great, because I'm pretty sure I've talked to a lot of people about this if I haven't already mentioned it on the podcast, but I've loved fighting the skeleton lords, but depending on your ship type, the difficulty is going to be different. And right now, the brigantine needs probably the biggest tweaks to the difficulty, because their difficulty is closer to the actual galleon, and people have tested this. I'm fully aware that the brigantine feels like you're missing a person. That's been my one thing about the brigantine that I've realized with the skeleton lords is I just don't want to do them on a brig because it's going to be harder. The sloop is actually the easiest. So if you are planning on doing skeleton lords multiple times to get the commendations for those, I would highly recommend doing them on a sloop, because while it'll only be 2 people, the amount of health that the skeleton lords have is drastically lower than what is actually in with the brigantine and the galleons. And kudos to People's Republic in the Keelhauled Discord. He and or actually I don't know if it's a he, it's probably a he or a she, whichever. Could be a robot too. If you're a robot, let me know. I don't know if you're a robot. I'll have to ask you later on, or you can tell me. That works out too. But they went out and they gathered a bunch of powder kegs, like a lot of powder kegs. And they tested. They went ahead and did some CS science, and they found out just how many powder kegs it takes to kill skeleton lords, depending on if you're on a sloop or if you're on a brigantine or if you're on a galleon. And come to find out, the amount of powder kegs it takes to kill a skeleton lord and this is theoretically like a one-shot kill. Like you take them all, you stack them, you bring them over, and then you blow them up and you see if he dies, and then you just work on the numbers after that. But the numbers that you need to kill a skeleton lord when you're on a brigantine versus a galleon are exactly the same. The exact same number of powder kegs. There could be a little bit of difference in the health, but for the most part, it sounds like the brigantine and the galleon are par for the course when it comes to having the same amount of health. And the sloop is insanely less than the brigantine and the galleon. So if you're going to fight those guys, I would highly recommend actually doing that in a sloop. Even if you have extra friends, split up the team, go do it with two different people or with two people on a different server, and you'll probably have a much better time making sure that you can actually get that done. That being said, if you do have to do it with more than two people, highly recommend going with the galleon. The galleon's going to be your best bet for that. So thanks to People's Republic in the Keelhauled Discord for doing that work, putting in the time to try and work it out, and then sharing that information with the Discord as well too, so that I can take that information and share it with you as well. All right, pirates. So that's going to cover it as far as news is concerned. Now I wanted to kind of take the last 20 minutes of the episode and let's dig into two parts. One part is going to be a discussion on the Hunter's Call reputation, and the second part is going to be spoilers, and that's where I'm going to leave off. Anyone that doesn't want to be spoiled about Tall Tales stuff, you can take off after I talk about the Hunter's Call. I don't know, you might have already taken off. If you had to go, I'm sorry. I love you. I hope it wasn't something I said. It was probably something I said, at which case I'm still sorry. But anyway, let's I want to talk about Hunter's Call because just recently Captain Falcor put out a comment on Twitter, and I see his perspective on this, but he's asking for a balance for reputation grind for the Hunter's Call. And I honestly disagree with him on this one thing. It's not too often that I disagree with him on something, because he and I love this game and love the lore and love talking about it. But I have really wanted to have a long grind in the game, something that gives me something to work on well past the launch, something that I can really kind of like sink my teeth into over the long course of the game, because as it stands, it seems like I'm going to be grinding stuff for quite a while, and that's not something that I'm upset about, because with not having as much time to play as I usually do, and having something to look forward to, having a reputation that goes up, I've been really enjoying the Hunter's Call and being able to see like numbers go up, and realizing that it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of effort to get to level 50 with that. Now, this is something that is going to be affected soon, because Rare has said that they are going to be putting in the letters of recommendation for the Hunter's Call. So people that are frustrated with it and have the doubloons to burn can actually go out and buy the levels that they want to get the full killer whale set. So if you don't know, there is equipment for the Hunter's Call as well as liveries, and all of that stuff is earned once you hit different levels of reputation. And I actually really like this a lot better than the original prospects of hitting multiple level increases and slowly upgrading your gear. Like, for example, with the Sea Dogs, once you hit level 5, you get a sword. Once you hit level 10, you get the, I can't even remember what it is at this point. I think it's the blunderbuss. But at level 15, you get a more elaborate version of the sword. And that kind of bounces back and forth. But with the Hunter's Call, you actually get different equipment and then eventually liveries for the killer whale from the Hunter's Call. And I love that. I think it's great. And it gives me something to look forward to grinding, because I see people that have the figurehead for the killer whale. I'll know that they have spent a long time fishing and killing creatures and animals to get that when I finally see one in real life. But I don't want this to be something that's easy to do. I want to have something that I can grind over a long time. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is I wanted to put this out to the listeners. I want you guys to tell me, am I wrong about this? Do they need to address it? Do they need to make it easier? Do they need to bump up the rewards for turning in different things to Hunter's Call? Am I being too pushy in saying that there needs to be longer grinds with the reputation, since it's the only thing we have to grind in the game once you hit Athena's 10? And the reason I'm leaning towards this has a lot to do with what happened back in December when they cut the commendations down to make sure that you could get the overachiever sales when those were being released. And I was sailing with Kitarath the other day, and her and I kind of fell in the same mindset, that we realized that with the change that they put in with the commendations, that anyone who had over, I think it was over 300 certain chests and skulls and chickens and stuff turned in, that they would actually earn the overachiever sales. And she had spent a long time and was having a competition with some of the other streamers regarding being able to hit that before hit the original commendation numbers before each other. And I kind of wonder if this is something that is both detrimental to players when they lower the numbers, hurt the players that have the time to be able to grind it out, or the people that don't mind having a longer grind, but at the same time taking away the opportunity for people to be able to get it if they don't have the time to be able to play. Now, let's just take this and put a pin in it, and let's jump back to a little around a year ago, when one of my major concerns with the game was time to play, and being able to do a certain amount of effective gameplay when you only have a certain amount of time. One of my biggest issues was it just took too long to stock up a ship to be able to get out there and get some sailing done and get some rewards or some treasure, and in a certain amount of time that didn't require a 3-hour play session. So I'm very aware that having better rep gains for turn-ins for Hunter's Call is important to people who don't have time to be able to play the game all the time. I am one of those few people that can play just about every day if I want to for a few hours a day, and I'm okay with this long grind. And I want to know, am I wrong? Should I let this go and let people be able to earn the rewards faster? Or should this be something that is a tough thing to do? Is this something that people should be working hard to earn, and it should take a while? Or are there shortcuts that need to be implemented? What do you think? Let me know. All right, pirates, I went over the 5-minute time frame that I was looking to have that kind of Hunter's Call discussion in there, as I am sounding the spoiler bell. And if you don't want to hear anything more about Tall Tales that involves spoilers, then now is the time to leave. Just pretend I just said Game of Thrones and you guys are freaking out because you missed the finale and you don't want to hear any spoilers. Because I'm going to be talking spoilers. And if you don't want to hear about those in Tall Tales, then you should be gone by now. In fact, I don't want you to be here. I want you to be able to experience that for yourself, spoiler free. Unless you don't care about spoilers, in which case, chill. And if you've already done it, great. Let's get chatting. So, I have really enjoyed Tall Tales. I think Tall Tales is definitely what I wanted from a first player, or not a first player, but a campaign experience in Sea of Thieves. Some of my favorites have seriously been the Fate of the Morning Star. Being able to go and exhume the body of the ferryman and take his lantern and see that he has a huge purpose with a lord that we still don't know who his lord is, but to be able to follow the tale of the fate of the Morning Star crew, who is brutally murdered by Greymorrow and his skeleton captains on Old Faithful Island. It's insane to see what happened on that island and to trace what happened to that crew and find out that, their souls were ripped from their bodies and buried in these chests. And once you go and free their souls, you go back to the ferryman and end up saying hi to them. And you end up letting them know, or finding their story and stuff. And you find the journals about this person who went to Old Faithful Island in search of ghosts, and being able to find out, what the spirits of Old Faithful are. And that Old Faithful Island has had ghosts on it for such a long period of time. I love that story, walking around with that lantern and following footsteps, literally like some sort of Pink Panther cartoon or some sort of detective cartoon, to try and follow the trail and see where it leads. It was exciting. It was beautiful. And this weekend, I got to go out with Kylia and Drunken Monkey, Cam Bones, from CF Fashion. Wow, brain, come on. I know it's late, but geez, give me a break here. So I had an awesome experience. I had so much fun playing with them. We got to go out and do number 9. We got to do the Shores of Gold Tall Tale, and getting to sail out to the Shores of Gold with people that hadn't done it when I had actually gotten to do it before was great, because I didn't feel pressured to try and work out the puzzles, and they worked out the puzzles so quickly. It was absolutely amazing to see just how quick they were piecing this stuff together. And it was a great experience with 4 people to be able to jump in there and then work through it. And some of my favorite parts, I kid you not, seriously, the Belly of Gold is by far the coolest thing I have played in Sea of Thieves to date. I love the kind of dungeon Goonies run that is the Belly of Gold. And if you've done it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because being able to go through there and fight your way through the traps to kill skeleton captains while people try to raise this door through an anchor capstan is amazing, only to find yourself in a huge cavernous area where you're literally having to do beam to beam jumping, and to have people one of my jokes, seriously, when people fall on the beam in that room and they just plummet to their death, looking at it from a certain perspective, it seriously looks like a 2D game. And it's hilarious, because I grab my phone and I look up Mario death sounds, the little, let me see if I can actually find it for you. But to be able to see people of different skill levels work their way through the Belly of Gold has just been amazing. And I've really just loved just how much work they put into the actual depths and traps that they've worked on. And I love that there's one little bit that I love about each one. Every time you make it through a different leg of the Belly of Gold, there's a bell that is at the end, and I kid you not, it is literally you could tell the team had been working on this so long, and whoever managed to get through it first got to ring the bell. And that's such a kick of sand in the face of the person that's been having a hard time with it, because you're like, yeah, I got it. I was there first. But every time the next person made it through, they got to ring the bell. And then you were happy because they got to do it, and you could cheer them on and be like, yes, nice. We get to kind of advance to the next part. So there's one part where you have to go from beam to beam to beam to beam. And I love it because I always get to play this sound effect whenever I see someone jumping off. It's hilarious to see them fall down, because every time I see it happen, this is what I imagine. And because of that, I think it's great. I don't even know. I'm just going to play it again because it cracks me up every time I hear it. But they're running, they hit the beam, and then it's great. I love it. I'm never going to get over that. And then so you're fighting your way through all these different tunnels, and then you come to the final part. And the final part, everyone has to work to push the capstan around to lower the bridge. And once you lower the bridge, you look into the next room and you see Rathbone, the gold hoarder, sitting on his throne like a king, surrounded by piles of gold in this giant room. And it's the music swells and the anxiety kicks up and the adrenaline's pumping, and you're like, it's time, I'm ready, let's do this. And you start going at it, man. And those fights, like, all the skeleton battles are really good, but it's so cool to have this boss fight in this game, and to play with Kylia, to play with Drunken Monkey and Cambones, to be able to, like, oh god, I had so much fun tonight. If you've been following me at all, you know that I've been having a lot of fun and have recently been bitten by Warcraft again. Like, they recently put out the beta for Classic, and I couldn't be more excited because I miss those grindy days. And the Keelhauled Discord feels like the guild that I always wanted. It feels like the group of friends that I had back when the game first came out, back in the early 2000s, and I had people that I didn't know that helped me and watched me grow as a player and watched me learn as a gamer and to experience different things in the game. And the Keelhauled Discord has kind of been that for me. I started the Keelhauled Discord as just kind of a place to talk about Sea of Thieves, and a place for people if they wanted to come talk about the podcast and stuff. And since it's grown over the last year, it has literally turned into the guild, the group of people that I love spending time with. And not everyone that I play with is in the Discord, because a lot of people have their own Discords and their own communities within the Sea of Thieves community, but I love mine to death, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And to be able to experience the Gold Hoarder with Keelhauled members has just been beautiful. I love playing games with other people that I have like similar memories of. Like, I've never met them before Sea of Thieves, but being able to make jokes about more dots, I need more dots, or, switch to the ads, get the ads down and then get back to the boss. And then people being like, I need more healing potions, I need more heals. And then other people saying, well, you should have come prepared. Where are your flasks? And they're like, I couldn't afford flasks. Get them out of the guild bank. Stuff like that is it's so rare that you get moments like that, and I've been so blessed just to be able to have those with a lot of the people in the Discord. So I this is kind of turning into a love letter to the Discord community, but they mean so much to me, as much as you listening to this right now mean to me. And a lot of you reach out to me and I don't get an opportunity to respond, and a lot of you reach out to me and we get a chance to sail. And I want to let you all know that the Tall Tales, if anything, Tall Tales has been great for me because I've been able to have experiences beyond curse sails, beyond skeleton forts, or dying to volcanoes, and have these moments where you can work out puzzles with people and help their progress or have their progress help you, and still get rewarded for it beyond just the enjoyment of being together. And that's so precious to me. And I can't wait for what's coming down the line. I can't wait to see what Rare has in store for the next set of Tall Tales, hopefully sooner than later, but I'm willing to wait because I want it to be good. And I have no doubts that it will be. I have no doubts that it'll be even better than what we have right now. And I hope we get a chance to see some hints at that at E3. That's going to do it for this episode. If you're still listening and you made it through the spoilers, thank you. I love you. If you want to get a hold of me, there's plenty of ways to do it. The first way, the best way, is probably on Twitter, to be honest. That's where I get to spend a lot of my time communicating with the rest of the Sea of Thieves community that I talk with, at CAPT_LOGUN. If you want to reach me by email, a lot of people do, and I appreciate every single one of them that remembers to take the time to write me a story, even if it's for a past episode. I'm looking at you, Kylia and Chenzo. If you're listening to this and it's in the future and you have a thought, I still want to hear from you, even if it's been a couple weeks since you listened to since the episode came out. It's valuable to me. It means a lot. It really does. CAPTLOGUN@gmail.com. Please write into me. I love hearing from you. I love hearing your stories. I really do. If you want to get a hold of me in game, you can always message me through Xbox, and whenever Xbox decides to push it to me, I try to get a response out to you. My gamer tag is CAPTAINLOGUN. The other way to get a hold of me, the best way besides that, is going to be Discord. Join the Discord. It's a great program. It's free to use. It's a great community. Lots of people jump in. Some people leave. Some people join. It's fluid. There's no pressure. There's no roles. It's just all of us being pirates, helping each other out, and enjoying Sea of Thieves as well as many other games. I'm starting to build out more channels in there so that people have the opportunity to play games play other games and talk with other gamers about stuff that they've been enjoying as well too. There's been some conversation in the PlayStation channel recently about Bloodborne. I'm going to be starting up some World of Warcraft stuff, so if you listen to this and you like World of Warcraft, then I'm going to be looking to build out a couple channels for people that want to try out Classic or just want to jump back in and resub for the Thrall stuff that just recently got put out. I'm always going to have that Blizzard blood in me. That'll never change. But I know a lot of people feel the same and tend to jump in and out from time to time. And if you're in the Discord and you love Sea of Thieves and you want to jump into World of Warcraft, I'm going to be building that out as well too, just so we have a good place to utilize the amount of people that are in there that probably enjoy playing as well. Pirates, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you. I love you. I know I said this was going to be a shorter episode. It still ended up being an hour. Holy crap, I have to go. I have to let you get back to your day. But thank you. I love you. And I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.